Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Joe and the big guy. We came up with a name, Spitz. We did it.
We got it.
Obviously, I'm not the big guy. I'm Joe. This is UFC Heavyweight Daniel Spitz, and we're going to be breaking down UFC 229. We've made it. We're here.
We're finally here. Well, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we got to make it to the actual cage door closing.
Right.
Until I believe it's here, but I'm optimistic. Optimistic.
Same. I am as well. It's this Saturday from Las Vegas, Nevada. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor, arguably the biggest fight in UFC history.
Definitely, I think the biggest fight in UFC history. They haven't really been, there hasn't been as much marketing as, like, let's say 205 but that's because Conor didn't want to do that. And he's kind of in the position where he doesn't really have to, you know?
Certainly not the marketing that we saw when McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather. Definitely. Yeah, but it's going to be a great night of fights, the prelims and the main card, which we're going to break down for you. We're going to get to Conor and Khabib, but we're going to start with the second fight on the main card, but we should mention kicks off with Felice Herrig and Michelle Waterson.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun, exciting fight. It's two very high-level strawweights. You know, Michelle Waterson, she's never in a boring fight. Neither is Felice Herrig. Yeah, it's a great way to open the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Following that, we have a heavyweight bout. Maybe a title elimination fight with Derek Lewis and Alexander Volkov. It should be a good fight. How do you see this one playing out, Spitz?
You know, Derek Lewis's last performance, I don't think really shows the true fighter he is. You know, he's like, he has the back issues and stuff, but he does not have the option of, you know, sitting back and playing kind of this, you know, feeling out process against Alexander Volkov. Right. From what we've seen, Alexander Volkov loves to fight. His 4 fights in the UFC, they've all gone past the third round, and he's been hit, but he's never really been rocked or shook, you know? He took a big shot against Tim Johnson, but that's his first fight. There might have been a lot of UFC jitters. You never know. Yeah,
and he's fought some pretty solid dudes in those 4 fights. Roy Nelson, Stephen Struve, Fabricio Verdum, some pretty solid guys, so he's certainly been tested. But he's going against a guy in Derek Lewis who, of his 11 wins inside the UFC, 9 of those have come by knockout. Very, very good top pressure. And I think what he's going to want to need to do in this fight against Volkov is, Volkov likes to kick, being that kickboxer. I think he's going to want to grab one of those legs and go to the cage in this one and use that top pressure, which he's so good at.
Yeah, and everyone forgets, just because Alexander Volkov loves to strike, he is a very high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner.
Right.
So, you know, are we going to see him fight off his back a little bit this fight? Or, you know, when he fought Fabricio Verdum got that top position, but Volkov is such a large man, we weren't really able to see him do a whole lot with it. You know, that giant 6'7", 6'8" frame is, you know, it's hard to be on top of that kind of frame.
Right. How do you see this one playing out?
I think Volkov wins by TKO.
Okay.
Second or third round.
I'm going to say Lewis by TKO. I say probably the second round, just because it's going to take a little while to fill out a guy of Volkov's size. But I know that Derek Lewis has been in some dicey situations before with Travis Brown, and I can't remember the last name of the guy he fought previously to Ngannou, but he was
Marcin
also
Tybura.
Yep. Yes, he was in a tough situation there, and he's a tough guy. It should be a good fight, though. I'm looking forward to it either way.
Definitely.
And moving on now, the UFC light heavyweight fight between veteran Ovince St. Preux. He's taking on young blood Dominic Reyes, who's undefeated.
Yeah, this is actually a battle of 2 former college athletes.
Yeah.
Ovince St. Preux played linebacker at Tennessee.
Yes.
And Dominic Reyes actually played at South Bend, I believe.
Okay.
South Shore, yeah. Small school in New York. I believe it's Division I, AA, smaller football school. But still, he has that high-level athleticism background, and he's undefeated.
Right. Exciting guy to watch. He's only gone to the decision once in his 9 fights in the pro ranks. The other 8 fights, they all ended in the first round, most of those knockout or technical knockout. He has some subs as well. I think this is maybe I guess I would say St. Preux in this fight. While he's had a lot of fights, it seems like against, when he's ever had the big opportunities, the John Joneses and the Glover Teixeiras, and some of those fighters, Ryan Bader's, he really hasn't shown up to fight. I think he's more of a gatekeeper at this point for that division, and Reyes is, you know, the upcomer, the young blood who could be a future star in this division.
Definitely. Yeah. You're going to see if Reyes, you know, he has to show up against OSP. You can't ask Corey Anderson, you can't have a bad night against OSP. So, yeah.
No. certainly, like I said, a veteran. So you have to be on your best when you face that guy, because he's dangerous, very well-rounded, lots of fights. He's fought, I looked up a crazy stat, OSP has been in the octagon for 4 hours and 42 minutes, something like that. Reyes, his cage time as a professional is 29 minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely experience might show a little bit in this fight.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, he's undefeated for a reason, right?
Yeah,
but I don't think this fight's going out of the first round.
Okay, you see OSP winning this fight or Reyes in the first round?
I think Reyes, yeah. I think he keeps that streak alive. You know, he breaks into that top 10, becomes a real contender.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we made it to the co-main event of the evening. Should be a really exciting fight in the lightweight division. Tony Ferguson, he's back after going through that crazy freak accident injury when he tripped at media day.
Yeah,
he's fighting Showtime Pettis.
Yeah, what a fight!
Oh, man,
I mean,
fireworks.
this really should be a main event on any other card that wouldn't be with Conor McGregor on it. But this is such a ridiculous fight, and the situation, because Tony, he's very angry. Rightfully so. He tripped.
Yeah.
That's why he lost his belt. No one took it from him. No. So I think we're going to see that vintage Tony Ferguson who fought RDA, walked him down for 5 rounds, and just really seemed like you can't finish the guy. RDA hit him with everything but the kitchen sink.
Right.
When he fought Edson Barbosa hit him with everything. He just keeps coming forward. And I think that's what he has to do against Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, the question is Showtime going to show up one more time and showcase that dynamic striking that we all have learned to just really enjoy and love about Pettis from his days in the WEC to the UFC. I know the last few years have been a little streaky for the former champ, but no doubt about it, he is a very dangerous striker. As I said, very, very dynamic, and he's showed that he can be dangerous on the ground as well. Recently subbing our teammate Michael Chiesa. He had a sub against Charles Oliveira in a very competitive fight. And so I certainly think for Tony Ferguson, you cannot ease up at all against a guy like Pettis. You can't take, same with OSP in the Reyes fight we were talking about, you can't have a night off in that fight.
Definitely. So how do you see that fight playing out, Joe?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close fight the first couple of rounds, a little bit of kind of feeling each other out, and they both know how dangerous each one of them are. And then I just do see Ferguson being too much for Pettis. I think late second round, early third round, he's going to finish Pettis. I don't know. I can't say if I think it's going to be a TKO or a submission, but I will say I think he is going to finish him.
Yeah.
How about you?
I agree with you. If we look at similar opponents, we look at Edson Barbosa, we look at Rafael dos Anjos. We see how those styles match up against Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis, he doesn't really fight well going backwards. When he's on his bike, Anthony Pettis, he sets up all these amazing strikes, and he's shown he has this very dangerous guard. But what happens when Tony doesn't want to get in that guard? What happens when Tony is just as dangerous on the feet as he is in the ground? Yeah. So I think Tony finishes. I'm with you. I don't think it's by submission, though. Yeah. I think Tony gets by TKO.
Yeah, and he continues that 10-fight win streak and gets a shot at Khabib
hopefully
or Conor.
Hopefully the winner.
Hopefully deserving, but who knows? Crazier things have happened.
Yeah,
so
I've never known the sport.
But definitely deserves a title shot if indeed, and we agree, he gets that win over Anthony Pettis on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And main event, Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, biggest fight in UFC history. Do you think, before we get into breaking this one down, do you think that this is going to eclipse $2 million in pay-per-views?
I think so. And a lot of people are, there isn't like the world tour and the different things like that. But what we do know is a lot of people tuned into that press conference, more so than the whole MAC, the press conference. I believe they did the 3. They did Canada, LA, and Paris. So people are interested in this fight. And you have 2 countries fighting. Right. So yeah, it's going to be big. I don't think it's going to be bigger than Diaz McGregor 2. Okay. Just because the build up to that fight, I feel like there needs to be some type of drama this week for it to eclipse that.
And that one sold, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1.7 million. Yeah. So basically you're thinking that maybe it doesn't reach the 2 million mark?
I feel like something's going to need to happen this week. We're going to need some incident, and that there's the press conference tomorrow, so we might get that. But yeah, there's going to be something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, this fight is this isn't just a typical title fight. There is a lot of some bad blood. You have the two countries, as you mentioned. These two people do not like each other.
Yeah, they definitely. We've all seen it. Obviously, they've they shot that whole promo, but that obviously started from Conor defending his friend,
right?
And say what you want about it, but when one of your friends gets, it was a bully situation. One of your friends gets put in one of those situations, you react how Conor reacted, and just so happens they get to finish it. They get to settle it in the Octagon
Saturday night. And Spitz, this is clearly a striker versus a wrestler, a very good striker versus a very good wrestler. Both men very dangerous at what they do, but both men, a lot of their game is pressure. I think, and I see this, we might see in the first 30 seconds, the first minute of the fight, who's ever going to be more the aggressor is going to win. So what I'm saying is the person who's backing up first, I think we're going to see that maybe that's the fighter who's going to lose this fight.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe not in the first round, just because I feel like there will be more of a feeling out process in this fight. They do hate each other, but they're both very smart. Khabib didn't get to 26-0 by taking uncalculated risks. Same thing with Conor. He didn't reach the pinnacle of the sport by taking uncalculated risks. We just don't know, is Conor going to be able to lay his hands on Khabib before Khabib does what he's done to every other fighter? Is Conor going to be able to get up?
Who knows? I mean, I think that's what Khabib has to do. I think if Khabib is able to get a hold of him and get him to the ground, he's going to keep him there. We've seen him do that against basically everyone he's fought. He's just so good there, that pressure. But here's the thing. Just because if Conor gets taken down, doesn't mean he's lost the fight. Maybe it means he's lost the round. But guess what happens at the start of round 2, the start of round 3? It starts on the feet. Yeah. And I think that environment, that octagon, that large octagon, and being able to stand on the feet at the start of every round benefits McGregor.
Yeah, and I think, the narrative to this fight has been, either Conor has to starch him in the first round or Khabib has to grind him out for 5 rounds. Well, that's not necessarily true. We've seen Khabib knock out and sub people early. We've seen Conor go 5 full rounds with Nate Diaz, who you can say what you want about Nate Diaz's style, but it's a different kind of pressure. So we know Conor can do that. And Khabib did tend to fade at the end of the Al Iaquinta fight. Granted, all of that stuff that happened that week, you can take that for what it is.
Yeah.
But Al did get him to do a little striking war. So if he comes in with that, I'm a better striker than Conor, he's going to get put to sleep.
Right, and I think there's some emotion behind this fight, and so maybe he will do that. I think the biggest thing we learned from the Al fight was that it shows that Khabib, he's human. And so will we see that? Will we see Khabib get maybe away from his game plan and try and strike with Conor? I mean, we know he has strong hands, and everyone talks about this narrative of this fight, and everyone's bringing up the Michael Johnson fight and how Khabib got rocked. I would say I don't think he got rocked. I think it was just a whoa moment watching that fight and listening to the commentators that I went back and I actually watched that fight a couple times, or at least that part of the round a couple times. I think maybe he wobbled him, but I don't think Khabib was ever in any trouble. I think Khabib does have a good chin, and I think he can stand and strike with a lot of guys. I just don't think it would be smart to do that against Conor McGregor.
I think jumping on that narrative that Khabib lost his chin or Michael Johnson tagging him 1 or 2 times magically means he doesn't have a chin. You just can't do that. Yeah. This is the highest level. Michael Johnson is a very dangerous, fast southpaw. Look what he did to Dustin Poirier.
Right.
Khabib wasn't in there with just some guy on the amateurs, and he got tagged, and look how he reacted. So I think that's really the thing that's gonna, tell this fight is who's gonna break first. Because Khabib did get tagged, but look what happened after. He got really angry, and we saw a whole different we saw that mauling bear. And look at Conor. When Conor fought Chad started to land. He was laughing in his face. He was talking to him the whole time. Right. So who's gonna have that in their head break first?
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of the psychological warfare of getting angry and breaking, how do you see that playing out in the fight? Do you think it'll be a factor? I watched the press conference that was on last week. It was a little strange. I mean, obviously Conor does what he does best, and he's getting in his face, saying a lot of words, a lot of things. Do you think that psychological warfare, which we all know he's the best at in the UFC, is that going to play a factor in this fight?
I don't at all. And I think if you really pay attention to the body language and just what we did see from the press conference, we didn't see the same thing that happened with Jose Aldo. People are trying to make that comparison. No. Khabib was very calculated. He was very calm. You could tell there was no... Jose Aldo, you could just tell he wanted to hurt Conor. Khabib does. He's talked about it, but he's as cool as a cucumber. I don't think the psychological warfare will play any part in it. Maybe when they're in the fight and they start talking to each other, but I think that's totally different.
Yeah. So Spitz, in terms of focus, we know that Conor's been promoting his whiskey. He did that during the press conference. He's had some legal troubles that he's gone through recently following the events at the Barclays Center. Do you think he's going to be focused for this fight with his mind being some of the other places the last couple of months?
Definitely, and I think we can see that from the issues with the press conference and the media that he allowed for this fight. I think the main reason that he chose to not do, obviously, the tour and everything they could have done with this for the magnitude of fight it is because he's taking every precaution necessary to fight the absolute monster he has to fight. So I don't think it's a distraction. I think he's smart enough. If he didn't want to fight, he's got $100 million. I don't think he would come back.
Sure.
But Conor got to the level he is so quickly because he's obsessed with improvement. Yeah. And I think we're going to see old vintage Conor. At least I hope we are, because that's going to be exciting.
Yeah. How do you see... This is such a hard fight to pick who you think is going to win and how. But that's what we're doing. So I'll ask you first, then I'll give my thoughts. Who do you think is going to win this fight and how?
I think Conor wins. But I don't think he's going to win by first-round knockout like everyone says. I think it's a possibility, but so is everything. It's a fight. I think Conor wins by third or fourth round knockout.
Okay. I think that this is going to be an absolute dog fight. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be very, I think, back and forth. And I think eventually, though, Khabib's wrestling is going to be too much. Eventually, he's going to land one of those takedowns that just Conor will not be able to get up from. I think it happens probably late in the third, maybe in the fourth round, and he's able to sit there and ground and pound, maybe land a sub. But I'll say fourth round TKO for Nurmagomedov. Yeah, should be a fun card. I'm really looking forward to watching this one.
Best card of the year, definitely.
Yeah. And it all goes down this Saturday, pay-per-view from Las Vegas, Nevada. Conor McGregor,
forward to it.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, UFC 229.
Sure.
Yeah, cross our fingers that nothing happens before
there.
Saturday night. All right, man, this is a lot of fun. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, see ya.